afternoon, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the ACSOM Bulletin. It is Tuesday afternoon. It is the trio. We're all back again. Lawrence, your first time on since New Year. How was it? You have a good time?
Listen, it was good, but there's no football. It's terrible, Good start to the transfer window. Interesting, we've added Kenny since then as well. So it'll be interesting how it progresses if we move anyone out or anyone else in. But can't wait to get back playing football. The rumour is the fans will be back. We're going to face Hibs, who have 2 wins under their belt, under Maloney. Let's hope we hold their good run of form.
Yeah, we'll have a wee look ahead to that game because we'll be on the day after. We play Hibs. Hopefully we're at that game on that Monday evening at Celtic Park. Patrick, that was very welcome news. The tweet, obviously, we've not heard from the First Minister as of yet. I think that's expected to come about 2:15, but it was welcome news that we've got Colin Mackay, Raman Bajwa, Nick Eardley as well, and some other high-profile journalists tweeting out that it is expected that we're going to get full capacity back. So it looks as if the move to move the winter break forward by the 10 clubs that voted on it was a good decision. It kind of leaves a bit of egg in the face for the other two that just thought, let's continue to keep playing games, didn't it?
Yeah, and you could see what was happening there. They had 2 tough games, both those clubs, and they didn't want the home fans in, and they wanted to try and take advantage, and it was never going to work because it wasn't to a majority's advantage, and the majority ended up siding with their fans, and I think that was the right decision, because now we only had the Boxing Day games with 500 people. We're now going to get the rest of the fixtures, hopefully with full capacity crowds, and just good to be going back to the football again.
Yeah, Lawrence, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts on this are yourself. I don't think it would be anywhere near as bad as last season in terms of our preparation going into games and how we play behind, if it was closed doors or 500 fans. But I think without having a big crowd behind us, it would really, really affect us. I do think that we play better with a big crowd, and the crowds behind us, you've seen that in games this season. The players really feed off that energy. Yeah,
listen, definitely. I think Ange has covered it the best, hasn't he? He wants to play football in front of fans. I imagine your desires to play games of football without fans there. Really, what's the point? It's, football's the fans. So, yeah, I think the team definitely feed off it. We give them a lift. In the League Cup final, I thought, we were flagging a bit in the last 10 minutes and the fans kind of really rallied, So, we definitely play better with fans in the stadium. And, we all want to go and watch games. That's the bottom line, isn't it? We all want to go and see Celtic.
Yeah, I think a very famous man, Patrick, said football without the fans is nothing. Depending on what club it is, you interpret who says that. Because if you remember the start of the lockdown, and the team you and I watched last night, it was given as if Matt Busby said that quote, but it was, of course, Chalk Steen. But it's a welcome boost. I think this will be a boost for the players. So, Patrick, I think the players came back last Monday, which was, just looking at my calendar, the 3rd. I'll try and get the year right this week. I was still stuck in 2021 last week. So they came back in the 3rd. Now, we had chatted about, Ange having a bit more time with players at Lennoxtown. We've not went away anywhere, thankfully though. No howlers to come back from to start a new year off. But we've had this, week, and it will be 2 weeks before we play Hibs. What do you expect's been happening in that training ground at Lennoxtown? Because I think, the games ratio that we had, especially through December, there's been very little training getting done in terms of the technical analysis on the training pitch, in terms of fine, intricate details. What do you expect's been happening up there for this past week so far?
Well, hopefully we're working on our set pieces, Get a wee bit working off from the corners. Because, listen, we got loads of corners, but hardly any goals from them. So, I think it is, 2 games a week in December. So, they've been doing very little training, just video review, basically, when they rest between games. So now, hopefully working on our set pieces. Integrating the new boys and at the side, and just getting his ideas across, because he's not had a lot of time to work with the players at all, has he? Because we've had so many games the first half of the season. So this is probably his biggest chance to have an effect on the players now, because we're going to be right back into it again. We're still in Europe. A lot more than any of us expected when Ange took over. We've got 1 trophy in the bag, still in the hunt for another 3. Probably the worry on the horizon is I think Japan's got the okay to call back their overseas players for games, so we might need to ask for some games to be postponed, if that's true, if that happens. But yeah, I'm hoping that we're working on set pieces, especially corners.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Afternoon to Colin, everybody else is wishing us good afternoon. Patrick, what's your thoughts on that? I mean, we'll come on to Chris Julian. I mean, Lawrence over there was making the MSN News with what his thoughts were on Chris Julian a few weeks back. But so Lawrence thinks, he got like particular attention and set pieces. I think he's bang on there with video analysis. I think that would have been something that, would have been the basis of what was getting done there. What was your thoughts? Because again, even guys like Joe Hart came in while we were, in a run of fixtures. We were playing a Europa League qualifier the day after he arrived at Celtic. So even for guys like this, it's time just to spend a bit of time in the training park again, which I think should be at the advantage.
100%. And, it can only benefit the players, I think, because we know Ange is a quality manager, and we know, I'd imagine every single player's bought into what he's trying to teach and what he's trying to bring to the club. I imagine some of it will be getting the three Japanese boys familiar with their teammates, with the staff and the routine and stuff like that. But for the rest of them, I think it will give Ange a chance to work in new ideas, and as Lawrence said, a chance to, hone our skills at set pieces, because you're not going to score from a corner every single game, but we can go 10 games at a time without scoring from corners. I think we probably have at some point this season. You had that really good worked free kick from Turnbull and Rogic against Motherwell. So that was good to see. Hopefully we can work on more of that. But I think if Julian comes back, we'll probably touch on this later, but I think he could be a real benefit to us at set pieces, because Ralston's been our main threat from free kicks and corners. Yeah. And I think Carter Vickers has got one goal and he scored that with his foot, but Starfelt hasn't got any. So it's somewhere that we can definitely work on, and I hope Ange is working on it.
Yeah, not to dwell on this point, but one of our comments are saying they won't get postponements, but there was a precedent set. I mean, Lawrence has touched on that a few years back when one of the Glasgow clubs was in the lower divisions of Scottish football. 3 players on international duty, and they were allowed a call off at the time. So I think if Celtic did want to do that, there was a precedent set 4 or 5 years ago, that would be the case. Maybe probably longer than that. I lose track of time. What is that? It was nearly 10 years. But there we go. So losing track of time, gentlemen. Where does time go? It's when you keep winning trophies and leagues, you get lost in time with Celtic. But Lawrence, on that, I think so far out of 3 new signings, 2 of them remain uncapped. They have been part of the squad. It was a bigger squad for their last World Cup qualifiers, but even when Kyogo was injured and never went away with the national team, Miura at the time didn't get called up for it. Although he is the J League top goal scorer, he never got called up. So there's maybe potential for 2 of them to maybe go. But what's your thoughts on these signings? Because you've not been on since we, did run a record January transfer windows, not even in January.
For Maeda, it's going to be really interesting where Kyogo plays, because Maeda looks, are we going to play him through the middle, maybe push Kyogo wider? I think he's a cracking signing, the speed he's got, technical ability, it looks really good. The other 2 I'm not too sure. Iraguchi, he's been at Leeds, lost his way. He's been the next big thing in Japan for a while. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he can prove it here. Maybe, Ange has got a record of developing players. Hopefully he can do that. Hatate, yeah, you've got to put your trust in Ange, haven't you? The signings he's made, they seem to be good signings. He's improving players here. These are guys that he's going to know really well from his time in Japan. I think they all come in. They've not cost us the earth. We've not spent a fortune on them. They won't be on big wages. So it probably fits the model of selling a few years that we can make money off them as well. It looks like good pieces of business from them. Kenny, I know Kevin Tate at the penalty spot had told us in August to expect Kenny coming in from the League of Ireland. So I'll be interested to see where he fits in.
Yeah, there's a link there to August, Patrick, and that's something that even Ange has touched on in his little interview clip that he did, speaking about, I think it was Maeda, and that they did look at him in the summer, but it was difficult at the time to get a player in halfway through pre-season. It's a good sign that we're continually wanting to pursue targets that the manager's wanting to get, and I think time's gone by with Celtic. If we do miss out on somebody maybe in the summer window, that would be it, or until the next summer. So what's your thoughts on that? Because I think that's really refreshing to hear the manager come out and say that we've been looking at players in the summer. If we missed out on them in the summer, we've went back and we've got them in January.
Yeah, I mean it's really positive because you're always told that it's really, really difficult to get business done in January. Teams don't want to sell. Teams like Celtic don't want to part with huge amounts of money halfway through a season. I think it's good. I mean, we're obviously signing quality players because, you see these guys being raved about in Japan. McGree, I think we've all seen that wonderful goal. I think he's going to come in. I'm not sure if any others are close. I know we've been linked with quite a few players. I know there's a guy in, I think is it Saudi Arabia? Al Ali, the striker, the 23-year-old. I don't know how close that is, but he is posting Celtic tops on his Instagram page. So I'm sure that will go through eventually. But no, I mean, we've been saying for years, with managers like O'Neill and Rodgers, give the manager a blank chequebook. And it appears this transfer window we have, because we could be sitting here with 5 or 6 confirmed signings halfway through the month of January. And absolutely nobody would have expected that a couple of weeks ago when Michael Nicholson was made permanent CEO. Yeah,
I mean, I remember it was just before, I think, the St Mirren game, or on the day of the St Mirren game, that got announced, and it's actually quite funny to go back and look at some of the tweets under it now, because so far he's back in Ange, and that's everything that we expected and wanted him to do, and that should be the job of a Celtic chief executive, permanent chief executive. Just on this one, I've put it up there, but I'll bring it up again. Look, Collins just confirmed us, as far as the rules go, the SPFL don't need to approve the postponement. It's almost automatically approved if Celtic request it. It's very clear in that one there, if that was the case. Lawrence, so it's 4 in now. I do expect Kenny to probably go into the B team, like Joey Dawson has. Good result for the B team at the weekend. Again, like Joey Dawson, it's shown that there can be a pathway there for the guys going into the B team. And although, Kenny might not come in initially right into the first team squad, it's good that we've got that avenue to let players go and progress. Toby McIntyre, I think, has been a very similar system to what Ange's playing, and it's good that we've just got that wee linkage there. What's your thoughts on the Lowland League going forward? Because it's something I think we all wanted, Celtic to be playing in the lower tiers of Scottish football, but I actually think it's going to get the plug pulled on it probably next season, that you won't have the 2 teams in there.
For me, I would rather go back to the old-fashioned reserve league, but I know a lot of the Premiership clubs claim they can't afford it, but I suppose it's where you spend your money. I think the Lowland League's been a bonus, but at what level are they really playing? How competitive is it? So, yeah, I think it'd be unfortunate if the plug does get pulled, but I think it probably will. But for me, I'd rather just go back to the old reserve league. I think it worked a lot better. It was easier to get, players like Julian that have been out for a year. You could give him 5 or 6 games in the reserves. At a decent level, he's come up against other Premiership standard players, and it's easier to play the young boys in. So that would be my ideal for that. But on the Celtic tracking players and getting back to them, did land McCarthy after 13 years. So it's kind of so we do kind of keep track of them. But listen, it's good under Nicholson. It does seem as if there's been a sea change. As much as people say nothing's changed, it would appear this transfer window there's been a definite change in the January transfer window and how we're doing business. So hopefully it continues that way. And with Ange, we're not spending a huge amount of money, but it does appear that we're backing him. I suppose we've got to kind of temper it. We're still in COVID. It was a bit of a risk. We didn't know if fans were going to be back or not, or how it would affect us. So, we spent that money essentially during a 3-week shutdown from fans that were unsure how long it was going to last. So it was a risk from Celtic's point of view. maybe look to move a few players on. Everybody, I think, would agree Barca's time to go. Probably Sorrow. Ayeti's injured, so I don't know if we'll get to move him. But I think, hopefully Nicholson's speaking to their agents, saying, look, find them a club.
Yes, Patrick, I think, since Michael's come in as permanent chief executive, it looks good so far. And, long may that continue for the club. But I think also, we were all chatting in the summer about directors of football, etc. It looks from, on the outside looking in that Frank Trimboli, Ange Postecoglou's agent, is very heavily involved with the way we are doing business just now. That is a refreshing approach, and it's probably something we should have been doing years ago, that we are, not having Peter Lawwell phoning up agents to see what players are available. We're actually going out and, being aggressive in the transfer window, which is something I think we've all loaned for Celtic to do for many years.
Yeah, it's almost as if Postecoglou's the football manager and the director of football.
Encapsulated into one, yeah.
And, obviously it's working because he's pretty good at both jobs. The only worry is when he leaves, what do we do? Does the next manager, do we find a manager who's just as good as Ange? Because I think that's quite unlikely, because we seem to have struck gold here. But, you need to plan for every eventuality. But no, I mean, it's been a great window so far, and I think it was the day after St Mirren Michael Nicholson was appointed, which I think only fanned the flames, because that was a really disappointing result. But he's done really well, and as long as he understands that this is the standard that we aim for as supporters. This isn't like, oh well, we need to treat them well for the first month and I'll get an easy ride. We need to keep up. You need to maintain this standard of standard, I suppose. We need to operate ourselves as if we want to progress in Europe. And as time gone by, we had the Copenhagen game and we only signed Klamala and Sorrow. And at the time we thought, oh, Celtic are brilliant, we'll beat Copenhagen anyway. But, we've got Bodo Glimt. I think we're favourites for that tie, but we're signing players anyway. We need to sign players to win the league, in my opinion. So it's good that we're taking these precautions, we're getting ourselves prepared, because, if the worst happens, we might have to go through the Champions path and the Champions League qualifiers next season. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I don't think it will happen, but just need to prepare for every eventuality.
Yeah, we should do it, and even on that path, Lawrence, there is tricky teams in there. There's teams in there I think would be in a much better place to face now, with a settled squad. As Patrick touches on there, it's like that old cliche that we used to get from Peter Lawwell. You want to come out a transfer window stronger. There's been times in the past where we've not did that. We are going to, I'd expect to come out this transfer window a lot stronger than we went into it with. But we could all see that the squad was bare bones for a lot of parts of the season, for the first half of the season, that is, just for the way we want to play football. We've picked up a lot of injuries along the way, and it was stretched. But, as Patrick touches on there, I think, like I kept saying, once we'd beaten AZ Alkmaar even, that had we played Midtjylland again as an example, would have been in a much better position. Obviously they went on to play PSV, it would be a tough test for us, but I would say now this Celtic team is much better settled, and whatever way we're going to hopefully approach the Champions League, I think would be placed in a good position to play some of those teams in the playoff round.
Yeah, I mean, the squad numbers I think are getting where we want it to be. I think, I was hoping to maybe bring 5 or 6 in this window. There's still time. We've got 3 first teamers in. Maybe hopefully add another 2 or 3. And you'd like to see some of the, I suppose, guys that hasn't worked out for moving on. Especially like Barkas, Ayeti, who are going to be on really big wages. So that, they're a financial drain on us, that the wages getting spent there can't get spent on new players. And I think both of those players, it's just take what money you can get for them and get them off the wage bill. And if you can do that and reinvest it in the squad, Ange's got a great idea of the type of player he wants. It seems to be working for him. So, yeah, but you just got to kind of trust him to manage the squad. But we're getting the kind of numbers that we're going to need to see us through a season. Obviously, before Europe, we'll have another transfer window, which is good. So, hopefully bring in another 2 or 3 players this transfer window before January ends. And then in the summer, it won't be quite as radical an overhaul was last summer, so it might only be maybe 2 or 3 first-team starters. It'll depend where we want to spend the money then. And obviously, depending if we win the league, we may have more to spend. We may actually go, well, we've got that money coming, let's speculate some more of it here. Let's see if we can progress further in Europe.
Yeah, well, as Patrick says, Bodo Glimt are losing a couple of players just now. Obviously there's been a lot spoken about, there's been a lot written about the ties against Roma, but, it's going to be a tough tie. Of course it's going to be a tough tie, but, Patrick's saying that he thinks we're favourites to win the tie. I would agree with him on that one. I think it could be, I'll come to you in this first, Patrick, a really big weight off our shoulder if we can, get past a knockout round tie, 2-legged tie against any team in Europe in whatever competition it is, because it's been something that's been a burden on us for, I think it's 2004, 18 years that it'll be coming up for, which is a long, long time.
Yeah, I think it was, might have even been Barcelona, I think it might have been Barcelona the last time, and then we get knocked out by Villarreal in penalties, I believe, which is, just typical Celtic, that really, isn't it? But, you had guys like Larsson, Sutton, Big Bobo playing. It's a team that, me and you probably barely remember, if remember at all. I only really remember them from charity matches. And that's how long it's been since we've won a knockout tie in Europe. And, we've had tough teams. We've had Milan and Barcelona, and, these are people who are winning, teams that were winning European Cups at the time. But on the other end of that, I think we've had winnable ties against teams like Copenhagen and arguably Valencia as well. These are teams I think that we could have beat. Even Inter Milan as well, I think we're quite unlucky when we drew 3-3 at home. A terrible first 10 minutes. But
that was a tie, by the way. I think it was Virgil that gets sent off over the San Siro, wasn't it?
It was.
And they were possibly there for the taking. As mad as that seems, we had a very decent season that season. Much as people, slagged on the dialect setter, a dodgy decision away from a treble, and I think that's a good game to touch on there, Patrick. And that we were really unlucky against Inter Milan.
Well, up until February 2015, Inter Milan hadn't beaten us in 90 minutes, so some would say we were favourites going into that tie, But no, I think it's definitely an aim for me this season. I'd arguably rank it above the Scottish Cup. I know that's hard to do when you're chasing a league and you've already got the League Cup in the bag, but it's such a psychological barrier. This, certainly for fans, I don't know how the players are feeling, but I just think you need to win that game, you need to win that tie. And then after that, you could get a really favourable draw, because I think it's Europa League drop-downs that we draw after that. So you could get a really, really favourable draw and just see where it takes you.
Yeah, it just depends on the luck of the draw, but for we know we're going to be playing Bodo Glimt. We've got a lot of time to prepare for it. These weeks will have helped, I'm sure, on the training park, and we're coming out the transfer window, we hope, stronger than we went into it. So, the blocks are in place here to do well and succeed in this tie, and hopefully get that weight off our shoulders. Lawrence, on this one of the comments is coming in to ask who's answer number 2. It is John Kennedy. At the start of the season, I think we were all concerned that Ange hadn't brought his own backroom staff to the club, but we've heard him in interviews say he likes to teach people about his style of football and likes to help them develop just due to his pure love of football. You've seen that in the Ryan McGowan chat that he did with 67 Hill with Hamish over there. If you've not seen it, check it out. He says that Ange absolutely loves football. This is the type of guy we've got here. And, on the chat of Kennedy and Gavin Strachan, etc., when we're succeeding and winning, it just doesn't seem to be an issue. Is it now just a complete, draw the line under it, that this is going to be Ange Postecoglou's backroom staff going forward?
I think in the summer, Ange was kind of more concerned with getting the team where he needed to be. He had a lot to do. And he said everybody had a blank slate, didn't he? So, Gav Strachan and John Kennedy, but blank slate, he'll maybe now be looking at that just now and into the summer, and he'll be judging them whether or not, he wants to keep them long term and move them on. But I think he's been very fair with everybody, saying, look, it's up to you. I'm going to give you a chance. Show me what you can do. Both of them taking a fair amount of abuse last season when things weren't going well, so they should get some plaudits when they are going well. But it's something I'd expect Ange to be looking at and then making a decision and saying, what, these guys are either good enough or not. Certainly by the summer. So I'll be interested to see what happens in the summer. I think he's done it right. The main focus had to be in the squad. We were so threadbare. He had to get that right. He seems to have, now you're looking good, right, the squad's looking good. They've got an identity as a football club again, aware in a style of playing football that goes right through the club that resonates with the fans, attacking football, everybody loves it. So I think he's, ticking things off on his priority list. And yeah, I think possibly in the next few months he'll start looking and decide whether these guys are going to be his long-term men or not. But yeah, so maybe in the summer we might see something change. But we don't know, what's going on a daily basis at Lennoxtown. Back to Bodo Glimt. I think, we are favourites. I think they'll be 10 weeks without a game, won't they, by the time we play them? Yeah. So that's got to go in our favour, hasn't it? And they've lost their star player as well. So it's hopefully, we get through and we can end up with a quadruple at the end of the season.
Well, you never know. Berg,
that's obviously not a quadruple treble. That's just a quadruple in one season. I know as Celtic fans, we get quadruple trebles and stuff. Not all clubs get that.
No, certainly don't. I think they're the first to ever do it. Patrick, Berg has left Bodo Glimt, which is going to be a major gap in their side. Tony's just reminded us as well, Stephen McManus is part of that coaching staff, Patrick's neighbour from up the road. And hopefully on set pieces, Big Stevens showing him how to score a few headers, because the big man was not too bad at them himself.
Started off as a striker though, McManus, didn't he? He came through the ranks, then it was midfield, and then by the time his first team was defence. But who can forget Hearts? Remember? We were getting beat and he scored 2 goals away at Tynecastle.
Yeah. Yep. Oh. Craig Gordon was the goalkeeper for Hearts that day, and it's still back to Hearts. It's football revolves in strange circles. Patrick, on Stephen McManus, he was a product of the Celtic Youth Academy. Stephen Welsh, similar path to playing first team football for Celtic. There has been the links with Udinese. Some people, I didn't understand, seem to be really, really excited at the prospect of actually getting him out the club. But for me just now, Stephen Welsh is our third choice defender. I think we're in a good position having 4 centre-halves. I don't expect us to have planned to have lost a centre-half in this window. It's not a position where I think we, needed to go out and look at as a priority. I think a goalkeeper, for instance, is much more of a priority than that. And, although I would say everybody at Celtic Park has a price tag, the money that was speculated for Welsh was just nowhere near the asking price. I mean, it did show, I think, a good confidence in Scottish football now that Hickey and Henderson's went out to Italy and did well in the league in Serie A. But for me, it was a no-brainer that I don't think Stephen Welsh should be leaving the club unless you're getting offered mad money.
No, and I can think of 100 reasons why we wouldn't sell Stephen Welsh. I think the two main people who want to sell him to Udinese have 2 main points, and that is he's not good enough and never will be, and Celtic need to learn to sell at the right time. I think the problem with those points is that, according to, I think it's a Twitter account called Football Scotland, I'm not entirely sure, the price was 1.6. Now that wouldn't even pay up his 4-year contract, so that's not the right price. Secondly, it's a 6-month loan followed by a compulsory option to buy. So we wouldn't be getting the money. We would just be leaving ourselves short for 6 months. Julian might not be back for Hibs. If he is, he might not be the same player. He might not fit Ange's system. So you're effectively leaving yourself with Beaton as your backup centre-half, and we've seen how that goes. On the point of his footballing ability, I would disagree. I think he's perfectly competent for a backup centre-back at Celtic, and I would encourage everyone to go and read Celtic by Numbers, Alan Morrison's piece from a few days ago. He actually published it a few hours before the Udinese link came to light, but he said that Welsh is quite competent for a backup centre-half and is improving. He's only been playing first-team football for, I think, 15 months now. To say that he's reached a ceiling, I think, is absolute nonsense. Personally, for him as well, he's playing for his boyhood club. He's got a really good manager. He's just bought a house. He's just signed a new long-term deal. I have no idea why people would want to sell him, and I just can't see it going through at all either.
Lawrence, what's your thoughts on this one? Because even again last season, when he came in, he made his debut against Hamilton Accies, 4-1 win. And he'd been on loan at Morton. They'd called him back. we've seen him then, play in last season's disaster in a number of different positions and a number of different formations with a number of different goalkeepers behind him, which I don't think helped his development one little bit. And in a centre-half partnership at times with the captain of the Republic of Ireland, Stephen Welsh, to me, looked a far better player and more comfortable. What's your thoughts on Stephen Welsh going forward here? Because for me, I don't think it would be the right time to sell him to Udinese, and as Patrick's outlined, I think just now he's our third choice centre-half, and I think it'd be crazy if we even thought about it.
Listen, he's 21, he's got a lot of developing to do. He's got, 4 years left in his contract? Over the next 2 years, we'd want to see what kind of player he develops into. But bam, a crazy bid coming in for him. Outside that, wouldn't be selling him. He's got a lot of potential. He's got some goals for us. The more he's playing, he's talking more in the park. He's certainly grown in confidence. So, we've got the perfect coach who's got a reputation of developing young players. The type of money that was offered for him is just ridiculous. So, yeah. And as Patrick said, you don't get the money if that deal's rumoured to be true. All they do is get a 6-month look at him, then decide if you're getting... they get 6 months to say, well, is that a 5 million player we're getting for 1.6 million? Basically, that's what they're going to be doing. So the deal's all kinds of wrong. But, yeah, and elsewhere we should be looking. You touched on keeper. Do you think Celtic would go back for Big Fraser? He's got 6 months left in his deal. Southampton wouldn't probably be too hard to deal with on that. And if we were going to bring him in before, he was going to take, I'm assuming, a substantial cut on what he was on at Southampton, and he'd be willing to do that. Then that would give you Fraser and Hart as your keepers. Surely that would settle the position for the next 3 years anyway.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one, Lawrence. I don't know if I think Fraser Foster for just now would be coming to play. He'd wanting to play, as a starter, and I don't think Joe Hart would be too happy with that. Having taken the big wage cut to come to Celtic. But yeah, it's an interesting one to be thrown into the mix. I think there's a link that Seagrass might be off to Rangers. That's a player who I would have been interested in as a goalkeeper, Seagrass. Marciano's out in Feyenoord. I think still there's been multiple links with him in the past before. But yeah, I think, to me a goalkeeper would be much more the priority just now than trying to punt Stephen Welsh. But Patrick, we've signed 3 players who we all expect to go right into the squad and probably feature regularly under Ange. One is a player in Maeda who he knows from his time at Yokohama, out there in Japan. He finished the top goal scorer in the league. Do you expect him to make his debut next Monday? We'll have a chat about next Monday because it's now 6 days away. It's something to look forward to, getting back to the football at Celtic Park.
Yeah, I expect him to play. Yeah, I'm expecting to see... I'm not sure who would play in the right, but I'm certainly expecting Maeda on the left and Kyle go through the middle if he's fit. Because I'm sure after St Johnstone, Ange said it's not a worry what he came off with. I'm not sure who would play right wing, but yes, I would expect to see Maeda. And Maloney's had a good start at Hibs, but Hibs at home at Celtic Park, that's a game that you need to be winning, and I think we're all winning.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
It's a bread and butter game. It's games that you need to win to win the championship.
Aye, 10 games out of 11 at Celtic Park should be bread and butter games, I think. I mean, I'm not sure about Maloney. I know a lot of people quite like him. I personally think he's not done anything special to say that he's going to be a magnificent manager. I think this will be a real big test for him, personally. If he succeeds at Hibs, then I think he could be a brilliant manager, maybe a future Celtic manager. But yeah, I expect Maeda to start, and I think we'll win the game.
Yeah, I do expect us to hopefully to win the game. Lawrence, Maloney's came in 2 games, won both of them. One of them a bit dodgy. I mean, Porteous, I think, is going to be missing for the game against us after his antics in that game against Aberdeen, and eventually he went on to score the winner for Highways. But I do expect him to come to Celtic Park with a really fresh approach under Sean Maloney. They've brought in somebody from Bodo Glimt. His name escapes me just now, but I do expect him to come to Celtic Park. I definitely don't expect Hibs to sit in against us, and they might be seeking a bit of revenge after the cup final defeat.
Yeah, listen, I think Hibs will have a goal. They've won 2. They've got that squad's got to felt they've turned a corner. They've got a new manager to impress. hopefully, if they do open up, it should leave room for us to exploit. My head, it looks rapid. If he starts, any gap, or you'd hope that he's another player that can make a difference. We're going to be missing Turnbull. So it's not who's going to play Turnbull's position, who's going to play in the right. Will Jota be back? But at least we're starting to get options, aren't we? I think we need to win probably the 18 games we've got left in the league. That needs to be our target now, isn't it? Sitting down and going, we want to win this league. So, I think every game's a must-win game just now. Let's go for the quadruple, beat Hibs, and just start racking up the points again. Disappointment against St Mirren, but a cup final hangover. We'd won everything else in December. So, I think Maloney will come out and put out an attacking team. Technically, we've learnt a lot off Martinez at Belgium. They struck up a good partnership when they were there and at Wigan. So, I'm expecting to be more testing than the Easter Road game, or the first half of the Easter Road game. I think it'll be more testing than that. But, Ange's got reinforcements in, and hopefully they've got players back to injury. I think Turnbull definitely still be out, won't he? He's probably got another month after.
Possibly 2 months,
Because it was 2 months, wasn't it? It's almost a month it passed.
It might be late February before we see David Turnbull, but we've got options in there now, Lawrence, and it's possible that we might have more guys in the door, not that they might start, but we will have options.
Well, that's it, I think he's got the 3 in that he wanted, and maybe now he's got the luxury of the pressure isn't getting the numbers in now. But before there was pressure on getting numbers in. Now maybe we do look down south and see who's got 6 months to go in their contract, so who's worth a chance, maybe speak to his agent, Barkas, his agent, if we can move them, get somebody in return. Who knows? I think he's got things aren't as pressing as they were before the window opened, were they? We really needed to get the numbers up, and we've done that immediately. Well, the day before the window opened, it was announced they were coming, and obviously registered the next day. So I think he's put us in a good position for the rest of the window. We get the business done early on 3. Now, it's not as pressing. If we don't bring anyone else in, it's not going to be a disaster.
Well, I do think there will be more to come. Elias Melkerson is the chap that Hibs signed. I don't know if you actually saw the picture, Patrick, but he was getting pulled up. He was cutting about Edinburgh, and he's got a photo with this big massive hawk on his shoulder. And Martin Boyle was saying, "What are you doing? You've only just arrived here, and you're doing something bizarre as this." But hey ho. But 4 in, 3 right into the first team, I do expect, Patrick. But one man who took us all by surprise was Riley McGree, because I don't think we expected Celtic to be going out and signing another centre midfielder. But here he is. It makes sense in that Ange plays a very aggressive attacking style of football. The midfielders are crucial to what we want to do. He speaks about the midfielders and the defenders giving a platform for the strikers to go and excel on. If we bring McGree in, I do expect Sorrow to possibly leave this window in the summer. It leaves us with probably 8 options in midfield. 4 kind of defensive options, 4 attacking options. Is that the right balance for an Ange Postecoglou team at Celtic with 3 in midfield?
I wouldn't class, just because he plays in a deeper role, I wouldn't class McGregor as a defensive option. No. I know he plays in that deeper role, but you're probably looking at 5 attacking options and 3 defensive options. And then, if Robertson comes back in the summer, I'm not sure what type of player he is. I don't think he's a defensive player. I think he's more of a box-to-box player. I'm not sure. I couldn't tell you. But, I think it is the right balance, yeah. Especially with Higuchi, it's his player. You know that for certain. And he seems pretty comfortable, with Beaton. If I was Ange, I'd get rid of Beaton after that Midtjylland home game,
I know. You'd have binned him after the game at Ibrox last year as well.
I think everyone would have. So the fact that he must be doing something in training, he must be. He's been playing well recently, in fairness, but he seems quite happy with him. Seems less happy with Sorrow. Just about everyone's getting more game time than that guy. He came in and he done all right for a couple of months, but I just don't think he's up to Celtic's quality, personally. And like Barkas and probably Bolingoli as well, he's one that you'd look to move on, Mm-hmm. And, with Bolingoli especially, he came in, he played those 2 games in October and November, and we all thought he played okay, nothing special, and then dropped again, nowhere to be seen. So, It's a strange one. It's a strange one. But, you know, if we can get McGree in the door, you're looking at, you know, 8 players for 3 positions. We shouldn't really have any injury concerns. You won't be able to trust all 8 players, obviously, in big games. But when you're playing, you know, Hibs, Motherwell, Alloa, those types of teams, it should be good enough. And yeah, I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah, somebody's talking about tactics in 4-2-3-1. I think Ange's style will be 4-3-3 for his entirety at Celtic. It is his usual formation. It's the one he used in Japan. It's what he used in Australia. He seems to like the 4-3-3. A lot of teams across Europe use 4-3-3. It is a style that is favoured. But Lawrence, it would leave us, if McGree does come in with midfield options. Currently, I won't punt wee Sorrow just too soon because he is still a Celtic player. Of McGregor, Beaton, McCarthy, Sorrow, Rogic, Turnbull, Hatate, McGree, and Ideguchi. So it's 9 just now with Ismaila Sorrow still at the club. You know, that was the area, I think, of our team that we could see was bare bones, and had anything happened at the same time to Turnbull and Rogic, we were, you know, in a crisis basically, because we just didn't have an attack midfield option apart from those two. And it meant that McGregor was getting switched from playing that more deeper role in the midfield to then changing about, etc. Do you think, you know, if Sorrow goes 8 players for 3 positions, it's quite a settled place to be in the midfield?
Yeah, I think that's definitely enough cover. You know, you've got a lot of quality in there. Turnbull's going to be out for a while, so yeah, you've only got 3 positions. But you know, 4-3-3 looks like his formation, but the 3-5-2 done okay when he played it. So maybe 4-3-3 has been his formation here for almost every game, just because he hasn't had options. And now starts to give us options, which just due to the size of squad we've been lacking. But you know, no matter how many you're playing in midfield, you've got to think McGregor's a starter, haven't you? So it kind of so it's maybe not 9 for 3 positions, maybe it's 8 for 2 positions. Because McGregor starts, let's be honest, and the other 2 positions are up for grabs amongst the 8. So I think that's plenty of cover. You know, Beaton's been a revelation since he came into midfield. You know, I thought it was nice.
You'd put him up there as one of the best players under Ange so far this season. Yeah. I think with guys like McGregor and Kyogo and stuff, because he really has turned it around.
Yep, I mean, last season I said he was your natural successor to Brown, so that could be 2-year positions going already. Beaton McGregor, then I think it's the attacking midfielder. You know, when Tom Rogic's on his game, he's unplayable in Scotland. But if his game drops, it's who do you put in place for him? I know Turnbull's out injured, and I know he's played almost every minute under Ange, but for me, he's not the answer. But it's possibly he's been getting all those minutes because we haven't had another option. And now that we're getting other options, well, now he's injured, but we're going to have to play someone else when he's not fit. And hopefully, you know, they're the answer, because we get a lot of the ball and sometimes we're not getting the goal return you'd expect. I think a lot of that's down to the quality of chances it's created.
Patrick, it's also crucial that these guys coming in from the J-League are up to speed. They've played a full season, and that really helps us. It's not a case of, you know, getting them in on the 31st of December, and then, you know, it taking 2-3 weeks to get them up to speed. They will have went straight into training last week, and I'm sure fitted in quite the thing, probably, in terms of the training and their fitness and just, you know, being at the same level as the Celtic team.
Yeah, hopefully. And, you know, with Kyogo as well, he's basically played a season and a half, you know. I know he's had some time out, but he's basically been... I mean, I've not seen pictures of him in training, so maybe he's still on a mini holiday, because he played those 20-25 minutes away to St Johnstone on Boxing Day, and
I think he was in
football since then.
He was in Japan, back to Japan for a break, yeah.
Aye, so hope he enjoyed it. Well deserved, definitely.
Yep. I hope Celtic rolled out the red carpet and sent him a nice 5-star hotel, etc., and let him have whatever he wanted for his dinner, and you know, just a luxury car, big limousine, and all that stuff. I'd make sure that he was well looked after, I think, because he certainly deserves to be. Somebody's come in the comments. Patrick Dolan's come in to ask about Sorrow. Say they would be missed. Who wants him in their team? Patrick McGilp wants him in his team because he was making money every week. He played to get booked. That was a favourite.
Just twice.
That made, I think, Ismaila Soro has helped a lot of Celtic fans' bank accounts because he's always been the favourite to come on and eventually get booked.
I think the betting companies will be delighted he's away.
Yeah, they will be. But Lawrence, in big games when, we were maybe needing to hold out and manage games, I think back to Real Betis with Soro, it's just, I don't know. I mean, would a loan be more favourable, or do you think it's just time up and it's, it's time for us to allow his career to progress, because I don't think it's going to progress at Celtic.
Not as a defensive midfielder, which is his position, but we're just too well covered. McCarthy's just in the door. I'm hoping he's going to have a good second half of the season. He should be up to speed now. I know he had COVID and he didn't have his pre-season, so hopefully, he's used this break now to get up to speed. You've got Beaton, who's playing well there. McGregor probably plays a position better than anyone else at the club. You've got a new Japanese boy who can play there. When Robertson's come back, he can play there. So, where the sort of fit in, he's probably number 6 or 7 in the pecking order for that position. When you're that far down, it's, I don't think Beaton, McCarthy or McGregor are going anywhere. So I think, it's time for Soro to move on. He's not going to get a chance, is he? Not with us. A loan with an option to buy would be brilliant. Maybe we should phone Udinese and just say, look, have you seen Soro? Send him a YouTube highlights, and who knows. But hopefully we've said to his agent, look, probably best to get moved on. Look, there's 4 or 5 guys in front of him for his position. Unlikely he's going to play. So my first option would be sell him, get some money in, free the wages up long term, or reduces the financial commitment. If you can't sell him, loan him, get him some experience and hopefully get his value up. You touched on it, Bolingoli, try and get him out. I know Ayeti's injured, but you want to move Bolingoli, Ayeti, Barkas, and I think Soro. If you can move those 4 out, it frees up a lot of wages. I think Bolingoli is probably on about 12. Ayeti will be on a fair whack, probably 18. Coming from the Premiership, and Barkas 12 or 15. I think between the guts of them, you're going to be saying 40 grand a week. It could be better used elsewhere. For example, if Big Fraser wanted to come in on 20 grand a week, if you move those 4 out, there's his wages more than covered.
Yeah, I think it just completely depends, but there needs to be a right balance stock here, and I don't think the full clear out of players that we do expect. I mean, like Ayeti, I think Lawrence is a prime example of that. He will be in really good money at Celtic. He came from West Ham United up here, and Patrick, I don't think he will manage to punt Ayeti this window just due to that injury that he picked up against Real Betis.
No, I think the only time we've sold an injured player was Kieran Tierney, and it's fair to say Ayeti's not of the same level as Kieran Tierney.
Don't think he could lace his boots.
No, he's probably in more money, which is it's like a crime, that really, isn't it? But no, I don't think we'll be seeing him leave. Hopefully we can get the league wrapped up in April and give him a few dead rubber games in May in preparation for our Europa Conference League final. Try and get
the positivity. Like the positivity from you two guys today, by the way, with this conference.
I think, Patrick and I are hoping you're going to speak to the president to secure
get us a few tickets,
mate.
Yep, I've talked to my contacts in Albania for you boys. No bother at all. That would certainly be something if we were all ended up heading over there. We're a bit strange feeling because me and Patrick I was 3 and Patrick was 2 the last time Celtic were in a European final. So yeah, it'd be nice for us to kind of remember it this time round. So fingers crossed. We'll see how the draw goes, etc. But back onto the recruits from the J League. He'll come to you one in this, Lawrence. Ideguchi, has played at Leeds, and his career never really took off there, and he returned back to his homeland eventually. Do you think it will help him that he's probably climatised a wee bit to the UK in terms of coming over here? He's already made that step, so that won't really be an issue for him.
No, I believe it rains a lot in Leeds too, so yeah, it should be settled right into Glasgow. But yeah, I mean, he's a player that's looking to rescue his career, isn't he? He has been tipped as the next big thing to come from Japan for a number of years. Ange obviously has seen him at close quarters and believes he can do something with him. So let's hope he's right. But yeah, he's going to be used to the UK culture as such. But he's got a couple of compatriots here as well. Maybe he'll help him settle too. It's not going to go amiss. Kyogo being there and being a success maybe puts a wee bit of pressure on the other Japanese boys. It's because, let's be honest, after Kyogo, you're expecting at least one of these boys has got to hit this height. I think Maeda's... I know MD looks good on YouTube, but the boy just looks phenomenal. Especially, when Ange talks about it's in the transition, it's the speed of transition and the movement. He's just absolutely rapid, Maeda, isn't he? I can see him for the pressing game. He presses really quickly in transition. Him and Kyogo, I think, will just be fantastic.
Yeah, I certainly think it's going to be interesting to watch those two, and hopefully by the time Jota returns to the team, he might be permanently our player. It looks as if that deal is edging ever closer. Those candles that I'm lighting every week in the chapel seem to be working. So they're working me for a title. Patty, again, we're going to be linked. I mean, it's only the 11th of January today. We're going to be linked with a multitude of players throughout this window. If there is anything in the link with the striker whose name I'm not going to attempt to say, because I'll probably make another mess of it. Lawrence, you want to have a go?
No, I'll leave it to you.
No.
Listen, there's only one striker I say, it's Galabadarichichi, but that's for the ladies team.
But Patrick, if we brought in another striker, what does that then mean for maybe guys like Georges Giacomakis? Because it's still not really taken off for him yet. He's back in training, probably be on the bench next Monday evening. We'd like to see something from him, but if we do bring in another striker, is it something you'd maybe think's favourable? Because at this point in time, we only really got two. I know Maeda can play up top, but we only really do have two at this moment in time. I know Ayeti's there, but we're not really counting him, are we?
No, we're not. I don't think it's a worry for Giacomakis if another striker were to come in, because I think you should have three strikers. Whether you're playing 1, 2 or 3 up top, you should have three strikers at your club. And Griffiths, just not happening. Not happening. He cannot come back. Afolabi, I think I'm right in saying he's got 6 months left, yet to make a first team appearance. Didn't impress at Dundee. I'm not sure where that's going to go. And then Ayeti, it's definitely not worked out. Just sell him for whatever money you can as soon as possible, really. So I don't think you're wrong to bring in another striker. I know Maeda can play there. I think he probably will, actually, whenever Kyogo needs rested, because we are quite well covered in the wing positions. You're going to have Jota, who he can play either side, but you're wanting him on the left wing. It's his best position. And then out on the right, you've got Abada, Forrest and Karamoko. I think Karamoko might move on in the summer, but for the next 6 months, you're well covered in those areas. And it seems funny to say that after the first half that we've had this season with all these injuries, but I think if you bring in that striker, I think that's you covered up top, because you get at least two options in every position.
I'll say his first name. It's Mady. We'll stick to, but he can play in the left wing as well. But he's, Ange spoke about Iran, I think, in a post match or in a press conference. And again, it's really refreshing that we are looking at these leagues. He is tipped as, the Iranian wonder kid, etc. It would be another ambitious signing, and again, I think his versatility in that he can play out on the left-hand side and he can play as a second striker or as the lone striker would suit us to an extent. Lawrence, do you think there's, the striker is a position that we should be looking at to get somebody else in?
Listen, we had to play Joey Dawson because we're so short in that department. So, listen, I think Joey Dawson quite did sell well, but he was brought in as development squad player or Colts or whatever we want to call it. So I think without doubt we need to bring someone in. Giacomakis, it's not happened for him yet. A lot of injuries, didn't have pre-season. So he's another one you're hoping that can be fit for the business end of the season and hopefully producing that. But without doubt, it's someone we need another body in the door. Who it's going to be, I don't know. But, we'll trust in Ange that he knows the type of player he wants and who to bring in. And that hopefully Michael's there to get the deal over the line before the end of January.
Yeah, well, going by the track record so far, it's looks as if anything that we're wanting done. I think that the initial bid for Medy's been rejected, but if Ange wants him, and if Celtic continue the way we're doing these dealings, I would expect him to possibly come into the club. Patrick, but the money for Riley McGree, who obviously, one of Ange's compatriots, you'll know Tom Roddick also. So again, it lets him settle in a wee bit easier than it would be if there was nobody else there. Looks as if it might be about £3 million. Again, it's a real sign of things to come under Ange that we're going out and signing a player of the quality of him, and we're spending a bit of money on him. This would be the most expensive deal, just due to the fact, I think it was Dan over in Japan said that it was one of the biggest heists since Brexit found out what Brexit meant.
Yeah, I think he said, Ideguchi was fair value, but the other two were... Yep. Ideguchi was fair value, but the other two were absolute robberies, and I think people said back in July that, Kyogo was that way as well, He wasn't actually expecting Ange to sign Kyogo. He was expecting him to go for Maeda first, but Kyogo at $4 million is another steal. So, no, it's good. These are markets that I think we speak about this every week. These are markets that other clubs seem to ignore. Everyone's constantly looking in at Europe because that's where allegedly all the best players play. But if we can find these gems, the other side of the world, it's well worth it, even with the 10-day isolation. And, the season being a different time and all that. But, just thinking forward to the summer, next season's going to be quite weird because you get the World Cup in Qatar in November and December. So it's going to become really strange next season for every team. So if you operate on a sort of global basis, especially that the striker that we're allegedly signing, he's got 1.8 million Instagram followers, Celtic's social media team are probably looking at that and going, the potential here, the untapped potential is unbelievable because you've got the whole of the Japanese market to but use to your advantage, and then this guy's 2 million Instagram followers. It's good to set Celtic up on a global stage because I think that's why we often fall down against Premier League sides. Their branding is absolutely worldwide, and I think it's time that we need to start looking further afield as well.
Yeah, and Lawrence, we're spending money like it's going out of fashion just now. I think we could probably recoup that quite easily if we, if say Mady comes in. There's potential to do the pre-season in 3 countries. I know, COVID will still be with us then. I don't know what point we will be with this pandemic by the summer, but I certainly think Celtic going to Japan, Australia, if Mady comes in over there, would be certainly Japan and Australia has 2 big draws in terms of marketing and everything else that the club is doing, and the club's really doing a good job with the Japanese Twitter account just now. It's got an incredible amount of followers. Building to carrying the team for doing that because it must be quite difficult to get the balance right with different time zones, etc., etc. But we're attracting a big audience in Japan, and in terms of marketing the football club, we're doing a pretty good job at it just now.
Yeah, no, without doubt, but I'd be loath to think if that played any part in the signings. I want it just to be judged on football ability, and that just to be a spin-off benefit of it. I know when Nakamura was here, the size of press room they put in the Celtic Park just for the Japanese journalists was huge. It was the biggest press room, bigger than the English-speaking press room. So I'd expect it's going to go back to that kind of level. Another tour of Japan in the summer. Could we get the season not extended, finishing on a Thursday, possibly because we've got 3 games suspended because we've had players away.
I heard you're taking Patrick anyway, because you know somebody in every country across the world anyway.
My cousin Charles used to live in Japan. He was vice president of the Atomic Energy Association out there. So we could do that and maybe stay with my cousin Scotty in Melbourne. Yeah, it would be good. Do a wee tour, ask him on tour, covering the team, covering the camp. And obviously that would be after you'd arranged the Albanian tour.
That's it. After we've been to the final. Yep.
Staying in the Presidential Palace.
No, why not? But
that's Patrick, commitment live in there, Patrick. So Declan can't back out to this if we the final.
But I think absolutely, Lawrence. We should only be signing players for their football ability, 100%. But it is a nice added bonus, and it's certainly in terms of recoup money back, it would be quite nice actually. And by the way, I'd really like to go to Japan, so or Oz. So if Celtic are thinking about it, go for it, because I think there's a lot of folk would be interested in that, and we're building up a big support over in both countries. Patrick, we will not be on until after the Hibs game. Hopefully we're on talking about a victory at Celtic Park against Sean Maloney's Hibs. What team do you expect to go out next week against Hibs? What would be your starting 11? I'll come to you after, Patrick Lawrence.
You'll need to correct me on any injuries that I've mistakenly selected, but I'll go for Joe Hart, Taylor, Carter Vickers and Starfelt, Jovanovic, McGregor, Hatate and Rogic, Maeda, Kyogo, and probably Abada. Got to pick Abada. I don't know if Forrest is fit or not, but I think it's Abada anyway.
Lawrence, agree with that? Any changes to that?
Keeping the back four, I think I'm with that. I'd maybe put Beaton, McGregor, Rogic.
Poor Tony Ralston, eh? Dumped already.
Listen, I've not got to the front three, mate. No, but seriously though, Kyogo, Maeda, and hopefully Jota will be fit for it. If Jota's fit, I'd start him out in the right.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get him back, but I probably would tend to agree with Patrick. I think what we've got there, that's probably the best selection. I am being reminded that Celtic already do have a big support in Oz, of course they do, and a couple of our legends do live over there. I still keep in touch with Willie Wallace over there, who's been over there I think since the late 80s. Wee Wispy went over there with his wife Olive, and of course the maestro Paul McStay's over in Oz. And
Scott McDonald managing over there in Melbourne.
Over there, he's managing over there in Melbourne, that's right. So
Georgios Samaras' granddad started South Melbourne, where obviously Ange went his trade. So
there we go. The Greek Jaws link. There we go.
That is it.
Yep. But we'll see what awaits us next week. Hopefully, there's a few more bodies in the door at Celtic, and we're on next week talking about a victory. Thanks to everybody who has commented today. Hopefully it's good news in half an hour and we're back to full capacity stadiums and cheering on the Hoops once again. So thanks to everybody for tuning in and joining us on A Celtic State of Mind.